We're live. The Bitcoin
Yo,
panel. Yeah, sorry, we had technical difficulties, but yeah, the Bitcoin panel, we stream live every Friday and we hang out with awesome Bitcoiners and we talk shop. I prepared a bunch of stories. I prepared a lot of stuff, but I'm not going to be able to show anything because I'm having serious browser issues. So if you're a new Bitcoiner, welcome. Definitely put your questions in the chat. And I'm completely frazzled, Nick. So and Tatum, welcome. Nick, welcome. AC is joining us soon. So how you guys feeling?
good. It's
Bullish
good
as
to be
ever.
here.
I'm continually. I suffer from a disease called I can't get any more bullish than I was yesterday, itis, and that means that every day I somehow am more bullish than I was the day before. So
Well, this is the time, right? This is like the exciting time of Bitcoin, and I guess that's why a lot more people are into it. I mean, even our meeting last night, Nick, right? That was a pretty lit meeting.
Yeah, there was almost 15 people, I think I counted.
I know, in this
People kind of
small
trickled
room,
in and out. Yeah.
and people couldn't even stop from talking within themselves. There's like three conversations going on at one time the whole time.
that's one of the like beautiful flaws of like bit devs, Denver bit devs. Like, I'll be talking to someone before we actually start the program about something like this last one. I was talking to someone about new gen machine ASIC miners, and Zach was like, "All right, we're going to get started," and I was like, okay, let me try to talk a little quieter because I still want to like finish my thought. And then Zach's like, "Hey, we got to wrap it up." And then someone's over here, teaching someone how to make a multi-sig wallet. And I was like, "This is honestly awesome. I love it."
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's so much energy. I'm not even going to try to do anything. I'm trying to look at chat and stuff, but oh wait, now I don't hear Tatum.
Check, check, 1 2. Hey,
Oh,
hey,
there you are.
hey.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen. I am so messed up. So, all right, we don't really need to talk about price action, but let's talk about price for like a minute and get it over with, and then we can move on. So, Nick, what do you have to say about the price these days?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly, I mean, I hate to make predictions, but we're not that far away realistically from the last all-time high. Um, I haven't been, I think we're at still 52-ish today. I
Yep.
haven't looked at price really. Um, but that's a pretty strong support level from the last bull market. So it wouldn't surprise me if we like retrace back down over the weekend, but typically Monday we'll see kind of a lower price point and then kind of up from there. So I don't know. That discussion we were having last night about the ETF, and I don't want to talk too much about that, but the simple fact that it's gobbling up, well, whatever, 2.5 times the issuance rate right now. So pretty bullish.
Yeah, that was what I was going to bring up. Honestly, was that like the everyone talks about supply shock, and obviously you can see where the demand is higher than the supply right now. Last week there were just over 6,000 bitcoins mined, but ETFs bought I think like 42,000 or something like that. And the actual like there's going to be it is going to be it's going to be a gradually and suddenly thing. I think is the actual supply shock. Like, we're witnessing supply shock right now. Like, I remember when the ETFs got approved, there was no confirmation or anything, but there were rumors circulating that OGs were getting contacted by these trading desks asking to buy these coins for a premium. I don't know how I've heard different percentages, like 5% premium or something like that. And I think that they're aware they were well aware before the ETFs got approved that there was going to be a shortage. Now, every Bitcoin has a price. And, everyone talks about never selling or anything like that, but there are people, and I'm not saying, anyone here is going to sell or there's a certain price that I put my Bitcoin on, but those Bitcoins will move at a certain price, which is how that price floor gets moved. And I think that we're going into the halving, where the playing field is set. We're already demanding way more than the supply is issuing, and after block 840,000, it's going to get twice as hard to meet that demand. And so I think that we're going to see it gradually until the halving, and then I think we're going to see that suddenly Omega candle. Not necessarily at that exact block or anything like that. There's definitely going to be a lot of other factors that are going to be moving price around then, but I think that very shortly after the halving, faces will melt. Sorry, that was kind of a ramble, but
No, makes perfect sense. AC, can we hear you yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Back to the
right.
old shitty mic, so hopefully the audio is okay.
Yep.
You're good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too. I'm really psyched about the price, and I think we're setting up exactly what you said, Tatum. Literally everything you said, I agree with, and it's definitely exciting. Those poor people still waiting for 10K are, cowering in a corner somewhere, right? Just
I think I have to respect the game of the 12K still in play gang. Like, if that's the hill that you die on, awesome for your conviction. I'm sorry you have to die there, but I gotta respect the game a little bit.
yeah. All right. So, other than price, what are you guys looking at this week? I know there's a bunch of layer 2 news, and I have some articles in play. But you guys have anything that grabbed you this week?
Yeah, I'll jump in with one. I saw Ella Huff post this morning. So yeah, Tatum. She had her second week meeting over at Cornell in the Bitcoin Club, and I went through both of her slide decks for week 1 and week 2. Absolute fire. I love what she's doing over there in Cornell. I think she's setting the model up for other universities. I can't wait to see other universities adopting something similar, fully supporting, a Bitcoin club at the university run by students. And then if there are any universities in my local area who are interested, I would love to help contribute if they're interested. But she's open sourced it. I think it's absolute fire what she's doing over there in Cornell.
Yeah, I was on a space with her earlier today, and she was going over kind of what they were talking about, and I was honestly shocked. Like, she's going through history of money with them, and she's just like, she's miles ahead of anyone in her age. Like, I'm pretty close to her age range as well, and I've wanted to get some sort of Bitcoin club going at my alma mater, and it's been kind of difficult. Just like kind of. It's been one of those things kind of fell off a little bit because there just wasn't any traction or anything like that. And so I have to commend her for actually doing it. She's achieved what a lot of people have been wanting to, and she's doing a insane job. And we're actually, I talked to her. She said we're going to be in touch about. I'm going to be talking about mining at some point. And just seriously, Ella, if you were listening to this, I cannot lift my praises higher. You are doing insane work. Good job.
Yeah, that's so cool. I just finished reading the Bitcoin Standard like a few weeks ago, and it goes over a lot of the history and understanding money. And I had been into Bitcoin for 5 years before I read that book, believe it or not, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, dude, teaching like you said, teaching at universities and just teaching the fundamentals is so great because the kids that young, they'll absorb it a lot quicker, right? Like they can just see black and white. It's that simple, right? And they don't have all the trash in their mind to trick them, or they haven't received 30 years of propaganda from the media, right?
And I also, don't want to speculate or anything, but look at look at the price of Bitcoin in the past 2 weeks since she's started, those meetings. I'm not, saying anything, but causation does not equal correlation. But I think the Ella might be the driving factor behind the pump.
Yeah. So we had a great meeting last night. I just want to mention, and Tatum, I think you're not too far from us. We're all Coloradans here, I believe.
So I didn't know that. This is awesome. I saw Nick's Colorado flag. I was talking to him, but yeah, I'm in Denver. I'm the self-proclaimed new king of Denver.
By the way, your show Between Two Asics is just effing hilarious, dude. Thank you so much for doing your show. Really.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff planned for 2024, and I can go into that later. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Cool.
Hey,
Very cool.
So I met you virtually through
You're a Pomp
course.
alum, aren't you?
Yeah. And so I don't know if you want to share your Twitter story with these guys in the audience, but I was dying when I heard that story, and I hope you agree to share that story.
Wait, are you talking about how I got him on the show?
Oh no, on your birthday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind, Chris, if I go into this? Okay,
Of course, please.
So, little behind me, I have a show called Between Two Asics. It is a 100% knockoff of Between Two Ferns by Zach Galifianakis. And I just have these awkward, silly interviews with Bitcoiners and prominent people in the space. And I thought when it started as an idea, I was like, I'm not going to, just go ease into this. I'm going to try to hit it head on. So I started Geyser Fund, and they were very helpful in getting me set up. Really enjoyed the idea. And once I started getting some money incoming, I just started DMing every big account that I followed. I was talking Sailor and I think Dan Held, and just these several big accounts that people follow for their insights, and no one responded to me. And then on my birthday 2 years ago, I just tweet without thought. Really, that's how I do it, and somehow it's funny. But I tweeted and said, "At A Pompliano, don't you have something to tell me today?" And to my surprise, dude DM'd me and said, "What do I have to tell you today?" And I was like, "Okay, what? Didn't expect this." And I said, "It's my birthday." And so then he responded to my tweet and said, "Happy birthday, man," or something like that. I was like, that was weird. And I DM'd him back. I was like, "Since I have you, I sent you a media inquiry on your site. Once you check that out," he's like, "Here, just send it to my email." And so I emailed him. I mean, the first episode, I scripted it out. I sent him this 3 or 4 paragraph message. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in." And I was like, "What the heck?" So I flew to Miami in a couple weeks time, and I was like, "All right, so you ready to record?" He's like, "Yeah, by the way, I didn't read anything that you sent in the script or message or anything." I was like, "All right, this will be fun." And it actually ended up being pretty entertaining. So it literally, I got where I was today off of a shitpost, basically, on Twitter on my birthday.
That's tremendous.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Right on.
Yeah, I often
love that
think about
story.
approaching people like that, and it's yeah, you have to do it in the moment, and the way you're describing is that's it. Just and I'm trying to get into that. I tend to overthink, and I'm like, oh,
100% my thing too. I was carefully formulating these messages and reading and rereading and editing, deleting and stuff, and now I'm realizing I was like, let me see where I'm at. Lynn Alden followed me, which was a crazy thing to happen, and so I messaged her. I was like, "Hey, are you going to be at Pacific Bitcoin? Want to be on the show?" And she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." I was like, "Oh, I took years off of my life writing messages to people like you and overthinking, but yeah, it's really that simple. They are literally just people that just a lot of people like." So.
So I wanted to bring up this idea as the price keeps going up, the bull run continues over the next 18 months. We're going to have a lot of friends and family come and talk to us at this. This is like, well, how do you buy Bitcoin, or what does it really do? So is it going to be simply that this bull run, or do you think also maybe some of these L2s and the Lightning Network and maybe even Nostr, do you think people will get more involved in Nostr, for instance, and different L2s and start sending sats to each other? Or do you think or do you think we're still too early for that? Nick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I think L2s in general. So Lightning Network, I know there's been a lot of development on. We had a little bit of discussion last night around LightSpark and what David Marcus is doing over there. I don't know if something like Fedimints are ready for prime time yet. I mean, there's a lot of development work that's been done there. And I would anticipate kind of by the end of this cycle, we'll see a lot more development on those. In the long run, I don't know if it's going to be feasible for every individual to have their own UTXO. I think we're still early in a lot of ways.
So, sorry, what does having your own UTXO mean? I literally don't know what that means.
So that means you have your keys and you have your coins on the base layer.
Okay.
So something like a Fedimint, and we're talking about eCash, it's not a derivative, but it's a tokenized version of Bitcoin that's you're able to move through mints.
And before you go further, I want to clear some FUD that, like, whenever I first heard that about eCash, like, I was like, oh, just more opportunities for shitcoins on Bitcoin, but that's literally not the case whenever I've learned more about it.
Yeah, no, and actually, we were talking earlier about you just finished reading the Bitcoin Standard. I'm actually in the middle of reading the Genesis book, and that's the Genesis, the Genesis book, I think is what by Van Weerdum. And that's all history of the cypherpunk movement. Dave Chaum with eCash and DigiCash and BitGold, and the history of essentially where Bitcoin came from. And I mean, that was DigiCash was a startup founded by Chaum in the 90s, and that's what Fedimints are. That's what federated eCash is. And so I think scaling is going to come across in a lot of different ways. I think the base layer scaling, I mean, we went through the block size wars in 17, 18, and we saw how that ended up with Bcash, Btrash, and BSV and that whole debacle.
That's my favorite Bitcoin is SV. Just kidding for the audience. Craig Wright is a fraud. All right.
Fake Toshi. I mean, I think the Lightning is the one that actually I think is the most well utilized at this point, but there's a lot of other options out there. I'm not sure where I sit with LightSpark though, and that whole situation.
I actually wanted to. So on your point on Lightning, I actually have some very dicey opinions on Lightning. I call myself a pessimistic bull on Lightning, because we do need Lightning. There are other options for scaling, but unfortunately, the way that everything has worked out, even in the past year, where Lightning is very widely known in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but there were the vulnerabilities that were found in it that were not as bad as people anticipated, but also Lightning is just kind of broken in general. It's still very early in its lifespan, and I love Lightning. Well, I say I want to love Lightning. I've run my own node for about 2 years. Um, Channel management is huge. It's an actual like part-time job essentially. If you want to self-host your own node, your own instances of LND or whatever instance that you decide to host, if you open up those channels, it's not as simple as like, okay, let me just open a channel. Cool, I'm using Lightning. That's why custodial options were very attractive, and I still think that they are. But custodial options are custodial options, and there's that risk. It's similar to like Wallet Satoshi. They stopped their operations in U.S. Albi, which I don't get me wrong, I love Wallet Satoshi, I love Albi, but Albi started putting limitations on certain transaction sizes because they want to promote self custody, which I do agree with. But if you want to use a custodial option, it's kind of difficult to find one that's a very, very good trade off. And the self custodial options are very difficult to learn and onboard, and unfortunately they're now expensive because you still have to open that channel. And if you especially if you haven't managed your UTXOs properly and you have just tons and tons and tons of inputs, that transaction to open a channel, just one channel, is going to be humongous. And then, oh, you want to open multiple channels. And this is the last point. I'm sorry, I like rambling on this, but like, say that I run my own node and I want a well connected node. All right, so there's no routing issues or anything like that. Let me connect to Strike. Let me connect to Amboss. Let me connect to Wallet of Satoshi and Albi. And those are 4 nodes that I can connect to. However, that centralizes my identity. It centralizes fallbacks that could happen to ruin certain transactions. I could have things stuck for God knows how long. Okay, let me go with the other option. Let me find a group of tons of my friends who run their own Lightning nodes, because that's very common. Everyone just runs their own Lightning node, and I'll connect to them. Well, you're getting a ton of microtransactions that cost a lot of fees. 2, unfortunately, I'm not trying to dig on anyone, but you probably don't have 20 friends that have Lightning nodes that they host. And 3, that is, you're running into more bottlenecks with that many open channels to have a well-connected node than you would if you did the other one. But then you have the pros and cons, and it's a hard trade-off. I want to love Lightning, and I know that I will love Lightning. I wish that I could help on the development side. I'm just not that technical, but it's not where we need it to be when we need it the most.
AC, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I completely agree with, we are still at the infancy of Lightning. But circling back to your question, I also find that that's the easiest way to get people a little bit of exposure to Bitcoin when they're starting off brand new. I mean, I've directed people over to Phoenix Wallet, Moon Wallet, Wallet of Satoshi before it left the US. It's easy. With Wallet of Satoshi now gone, I've started talking to people about Phoenix. And the downfall with Phoenix, although they implemented splicing into their solution, it is very expensive to create that initial channel. And then if people aren't managing the liquidity in their Lightning wallet and they have another inbound, they're going to splice in and you're going to be like, well, what was that fee about? And so people, it's easy to onboard people on something like Phoenix, but really it doesn't stop there. There's got to be an education piece for them to understand, hey, maybe I balance this and send it, once it's 50% of my liquidity in my Phoenix wallet, maybe I send it to another Lightning wallet and then send it to cold storage. And that was something that I learned is I piled up some DCAs into my Phoenix wallet. And I was like, okay, now's the time. Let me send it over to cold storage, not realizing that I had decreased my liquidity by the amount that I sent out into cold storage. So there's learning lessons for everybody. If you've been in the game for a while or if you haven't, it's like this constant study of the technology. And really that just highlights how early we are. I mean, all 4 of us are students at varying level, and it doesn't mean that we stop now. It's one of those things that it's probably continual and forever as this space continues to evolve and develop.
So how does a company like Wallet of Satoshi do it then? If I can just get and I know no one's really using Wallet of Satoshi anymore, especially in the US, but I mean, is it easier for a big company to have bigger channels or something? Because as a user initially, I just signed up and I was able to use it, no problem, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's because they're doing everything, all the liquidity balancing, the node management, everything like that on the back end, and just giving you an interface to use through their node. And I mean, it's very easy to have a well-running Lightning node if you have plenty of Bitcoin to just throw into channels and stuff. But sometimes it's a fight between what do I want to keep in what I know for a fact is has a better history in the Lightning on chain, cold storage, and what do I want to play with for spending. And there's honestly kind of there's a point of how many sats you should have in Lightning as a minimum, because UTXOs will become unspendable at a certain period. And especially if you get force closed and you have no outbound in that channel, that's just going to turn into an unspendable UTXO. So if you really want a well-functioning Lightning node, just buy a ton of Bitcoin and be prepared to spend a lot of time managing.
Yeah, that makes sense. We need something remember that stupid thing years ago? It was like the ice bucket challenge where people would dump ice water on their head and then they would nominate 3 other people who had to do the same thing. We need something like that for the Bitcoin space.
I nominate, Chris, Nick, and AC to run their own node or something like that.
Yeah. No, actually, I was thinking with sending Bitcoin to people. So it's send 1,000 sats to 3 of your best friends, and then they can send whatever. And I don't know.
I'll tell you what's good for that, Nostr.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Layer 3. Right, I was in Nashville last fall, and they were saying that Lightning was layer 2 on Bitcoin, but Nostr is layer 3 Bitcoin. And some people were like, no, it's not layer 3. And then it was like, well, is it? I don't know.
I think it's adjacent. And I know someone who's working on a paper. I can't really talk too much about it, but they've actually kind of went with the thesis of there's no layers in Bitcoin. We call Lightning layer 2 and other things layers and stuff like that. It's almost like a tree if you really think about it, because there's definitions of a layer where some things like Lightning 100% is a second layer. There's a parallel inbound and outbound route right there that you have to be on main chain to get into Lightning, and if you want to leave from Lightning, you have to go back to main chain. That is a second layer. But once you get to the other things that might be adjacent, like Nostr is like a branch off of Lightning in a way. Don't take that out of context, please. But it's using Lightning. It's built by Bitcoiners. It's a relay communication system. And the same thing with eCash, where it's not even like a second layer above Lightning or anything like that. It's almost like you need to have some sort of infrastructure behind it to function.
It's so early. All this stuff is even being in Bitcoin for 5 years and being on Nostr for actually about 10 months. Who knows where it's going, right? I mean, we sort of know where it's going, but
right. Yeah, Nostr. I'm extremely bullish on Nostr. Nostr's awesome.
But Nostr has this. The relay issue in Nostr is very similar. Well, I shouldn't say very similar. The issue with relays in Nostr is somehow analogous to Lightning channels on the Lightning network, because for instance, I bought a Start9 server and I started running my own Nostr relay and I connected to it, but then for some reason it wouldn't save images. And I was like, well, that's dumb. That doesn't, what good is it really if it doesn't save images? And So then it's like, okay, everyone should run their own relay, but like it's not easy. The tech isn't there yet. It's, you know what I mean? So same thing with Lightning, right?
I think the main difference is that it's easier to fix a relay issue in Nostr than it is to fix a channel issue in Lightning because there's no capital allocation. And the running your own relay, I definitely think that that's really cool, and that if you can, definitely do it. But I also don't think that it's necessary. If you run your own relay, I like as far as like a personal relay, that's usually just as a backup. If you want to run a relay for others to connect to, then that's a whole different story. But if say that I created Tatum's relay for everyone to connect to, and I'm like, hey guys, sorry, I have to shut it down. I'm just not able to maintain cost or whatever like that. And it's like, okay, let me disconnect from Tatum's relay, and I'll go connect another relay, or you don't even have to connect another relay. So I get what you're saying, but I think that it's easier to fix those problems in Nostr than it is on Lightning.
Yeah, Lightning in general. So it's really difficult to explain to someone, hey, let me set you up with Phoenix Wallet, and you're going to incur the fiat terms a $20 fee to open up this channel so that I can send you $30 worth of fiat in Bitcoin. And I'm like, what? Why would I do this?
I don't think that's a very good trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, I've operated a couple implementations, both LND and CLN, and it's akin to a part-time job. And when we had the high fee environment due to shitcoiners spamming the blockchain, we ended up with numerous forced closes, misallocation, between, basically negotiation of fees between nodes, and you end up with like, why did this channel force close? Yeah, there's it, and I'm still bullish on Lightning. I mean, I think right now it is like the number one scaling solution that we've got. The alternatives right now, there just aren't many, at least at scale. So yeah,
and you're basically also building from the ground up a reputation that Lightning sort of was starting to achieve, but it, like you said, it's still early in its lifespan. And okay, let's push that to the side and try to start this other layer and make everyone accept that. Now it's like, okay, where do we stop, guys?
Right. And I think in some ways it's akin to the early stages of the internet. I mean, if you look at the internet circa 1995, 97, I mean, a lot of it was, it was not your average person was online, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now with Bitcoin, layer twos, a lot of the technological development, like the technology, the base technology is there. It's just, there's a lot of room for development.
Yeah, I think one of the analogies that I hear quite a bit, and I think it's valid, is, for folks that are older, either watching or in the room, people might remember like AOL versus any of the other how do you get online applications, and they didn't talk to each other. Or you take like a couple years after that, and we've got the internet browser war with Internet Explorer versus Firefox, and who remembers Netscape. I think we're kind of in that exact same time frame here within Bitcoin and layer twos, and it's different organizations, different individuals and devs who are innovating in the space, maybe not in the same direction, but all trying to accomplish the same goal.
Yeah, Chris is actually going through the browser wars right now with his restream. Sorry, I just had to bring that up. I thought that I saw an opportunity.
I should have wore a freaking helmet today. My God.
No, thank you, Chris.
So I just thought came to me. Michael Saylor is transitioning his company MicroStrategy into a Bitcoin development company. do you think he's going to tackle issues like this Lightning? Like what if he created like 10,000 nodes and put enough liquidity in all of them, and that so then we could all just do that? Is that a silly idea?
I remember there was a meme that was going around that was saying like Michael Saylor's never sent a Lightning transaction in his life or something like that, and then he was like, "I will post an invoice" or something like that. And I don't even remember where it went, but I don't really think that I don't think that he's going to be as focused on Lightning as he is with other infrastructure, which kind of sounds it could end up being that Lightning is the infrastructure that they work on. However, I don't think that. I think that what you suggest as far as him creating these large nodes or something like that, that's a possibility. But I also think that that's an attack vector. But I think that he is 100% going to pour into core devs and these open source devs, because I mean that's what his fortune is built on. Like these people who have been working essentially for free on open source software. And I think that I am bullish on them advancing that and mainly the adoption as well. But I definitely think that Lightning is probably going to be at the kind of a afterthought, in my opinion. It's pure speculation.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that can be built for sure. Yeah, it's like who knows? It's like the future is this. We're moving into this dark mist. We don't know what's there.
I definitely want to see where they go because I mean, Sailor has been like you see a lot of these people who work on building in different areas such as adoption in countries that need it. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy who has been trying to successfully, not trying, succeeding in sending Bitcoin over SMS for third world countries who don't have even like smartphones or easy internet access, things like that. Mining in stranded energy areas, lightning, stuff like that. And Sailor has been like, aside from just buying massive amounts of Bitcoin for his company, he's not been doing any of that. He's more of putting, I think that his kind of claim is that he's putting regular companies on a Bitcoin standard in an extreme way. Don't get me wrong with MicroStrategy, but I think that if anything, they're going to work on integrating Bitcoin within mega corporations. MicroStrategy is not that far from being in the S&P 500. I just want to let y'all know that.
No, didn't they just apply to get into the S&P? I think.
Maybe.
I thought I just heard that literally today or yesterday, but
could be. But Michael Saylor is going to be. I remember there was an article that someone posted. Zero Hedge posted it. I think it was Wall Street Journal. Made a post like a while back. It was like Michael Saylor bet big on Bitcoin and lost, and now it's like, what? What was that again? You want to rewrite that story a little bit?
I just covered that in my video, side by side. He bet big and lost, and also he steps down as CEO.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
God.
What they made it look like.
What are we? Bitcoin's done for. Nah. Don't short Sailor, baby.
And then right next to it was MicroStrategy's now worth $10 billion or something. It's like, it's just the fake news. What were you gonna say? I think Nick.
Oh, I don't remember at
okay.
this point. Short attention.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Well, oh no, I remember what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, because he did what was it, MicroStrategy World? It was a conference it was a year and a half ago, and it was basically the attempt at onboarding additional corporations onto, like you were saying, a Bitcoin standard. And I think moving forward, a lot of companies are looking at, what do I do with this excess capital? Because if I'm sitting on cash, inflation's just going to slowly eat this away. I mean, back to Sailor's analogy, the melting ice cube. So what are you going to do? And I think a lot of corporations are waking up to that reality. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So, Chris, last week I said you asked this similar question, and I said I hope he partners with Ego Death Capital. I still hope that's true. So, if anyone from Ego Death or Sailor, if you happen to be listening, get with those guys. Let's make something happen for the entire community. Number one. Number two, I was thinking about it again after the fact, and I think it would be even equally as awesome if he started doing something similar to what Samson Mao was doing. I mean, he's done a phenomenal job of orange pilling the people. He's worked on orange pilling corporations. What we really need in the ecosystem is orange pilling nation states. And I think he has the weight behind his name, and he's a very influential person to be able to have those types of conversations. Not necessarily in the United States, because as the global reserve currency, we're probably going to be last to fully adopt Bitcoin. But I mean, in the global South, South America, Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Asia, I think there's definitely opportunities where countries like that could adopt Bitcoin, not necessarily as the only currency accepted, but side by side with their current currency. And I think that that's certainly an opportunity for a micro strategy and a Michael Saylor to tackle. Really big problem. Everyone thinks it's impossible. Very few people can do it. And I think he's one of those guys that could.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, he's our Babe Ruth, right? He's the slugger. And if there's anyone that's going to convince a country to get into Bitcoin, it would be him for sure.
yeah. I would anticipate this cycle additional nation state adoption as well. I mean, I think with what Bukele's done in El Salvador, um, that won't surprise me in the least. And I think what is currently a trickle or a few drops is going to become a stream by the end of this cycle.
So
At least that's my hope.
I think all of you guys have significant knowledge about mining, and I have a question because I have very little technical knowledge about Bitcoin, and I always thought, oh, I would love to get into mining. And then I looked at the price of miners, and I was like, whoa, and I didn't even get to start looking at the cost of electricity in my area, and my research stopped. So as far as average people getting into mining, it's a two-part question. Is it realistic? Can I do it without buying a $25,000 miner? And then the other question is, excuse me, in terms of timing, the halving's coming up in 2 months, and then the reward gets cut in half. So is that the worst time to start mining? Like right near the halving?
Yeah, I'll spearhead. This is my favorite topic to talk about, and I have some crazy predictions too. Unfortunately, right now, as much as I want it to be this way, mining is not necessarily. It is plebs can do it, but the reasoning behind plebs mining has drastically shifted. It's now a principle and conviction thing, and honestly, sometimes just kind of fun. We're getting to the point with the Bitcoin price where machines that were in the graveyard are now turning profitable again, but long term, it's definitely not like a let me plug this computer in and make money. And there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts going into the halving. This is actually my first halving in the mining industry, and I'm optimistically worried because I think that the halving might. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I think that the halving might mark an event where it might turn back into a pleb mining game again, and to a degree, because I think that what's going to happen is like some of these public miners who are their revenue is Bitcoin, it's going to be that function of their revenue is going to be cut in half, and it depends on how they've managed at risk. Are they going to simply just offload a few machines, make the market a lot more liquid, dropping prices down? Are they going to capitulate, liquidating the market like we saw in the late 22? Or are they going to get greedy and start getting more miners because they need to make up for that lost revenue. And I think that there's going to be an array of different companies who might fall into all three of those options or even more options that I didn't even cover. Um, I do still think that everyone should uh, mine at home, even if it's just not even like a let me mine for passive income, let me mine because I have free power, let me mine for heat, anything like that. I've always said like what you should do is go on eBay and get a miner, whether it be like the first miner I got was an S7. It is I think 7 terahash or something. I got 3 of them for $40. One of them didn't work. I didn't care. I wasn't trying to make money. I was just trying to see like what is mining at the actual functional level. And through that, I started having more questions, digging into more resources. I mean, I was on finding myself on Bitcoin Talk forums from years and years ago, looking at minor breakdowns and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, I'm looking at trying to figure out how to get 240-volt power in my apartment. And it's mining. Everyone should learn about mining, and it's a very cheap way to learn too. Like honestly, you don't have to get an ASIC if you don't want to, but I would recommend you can get an old ASIC that is still, relatively similar to you get the fundamentals if you get it off of eBay, broken, working or not, whatever. And also an S9, which is the tank of all tanks, sitting right there, still runs on 110, which is the standard North American. But there you go. I see that Crypto Cloak's space heater right back there. It's still 110, so you can run it in North America without any special electricity or anything like that. Um, and you can also you can get one for like $100 max. But mining is super fun to learn about, and I think that we're going to see, especially with Stratum V2 happening, starting to be widely adopted, especially with pools similar to Ocean. I'm not promoting Ocean or anything like that. I'm promoting the idea of what they're doing to mining pools. With both of those combined, I think Bitcoin mining is going to start turning back into a pleb mining game, especially people who've bought these S19s that have been unprofitable for so long. Those are about to be vindicated and become profitable again. Anyone else?
Yeah. Anyone else?
Sorry, I get giddy when I talk about mining.
No,
Yeah,
that's
no, I agree. I think. Oh, go ahead, AC.
No, I was just going to say, I like listening to Tatum talk about mining because he's so passionate about it. Two things for me, regards to mining at home. Number one, it's never a bad idea to have non KYC sats. And so one of the best ways that, a pleb at home can do that is through mining at home. The other thing that I wanted to throw in is it doesn't have to be like a massive energy sink. It could be something that people pick up, early on just to try a little bit of exposure through something like a Nerd Miner, which is a solo lottery miner, or the new BitAxe, the BitAxe Hex. There are options out there to dip your toe. It's not that expensive. The BitAxe I've got in my basement, and it runs off of like 11 watts. So it's hardly anything. You're not going to see a bump on your electricity bill. And then the other one too is you have some deniability. When some normie comes in and they're trying to confiscate your sats and they say, where did you get it from? And you show them this thing that looks like a miner and say, it's a miner. Who are they to argue with you? I mean, they're a fucking normie, right? Pardon my language. So just other things to think about. You don't have to jump in and say, hey, I'm buying an S21 and I'm, sucking down all this power. My electricity bill is plus 300 per month. There are different options. It's just something that we've got to explore as a Bitcoin community.
Yeah, and that was almost exactly what I was going to say. Is that the KYC factor, as far as home mining or mining in general, is huge. I don't know in the near future. I do believe we are in the then they fight you stage. So anything that you can do to avert KYC, although not going to lie, I've got KYC Bitcoin, a lot of it, right?
That's probably all I have, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then, I mean, I think moving forward too, with just the general nature of mining, decentralization of pools, I just started a role at SAS Mining, and that's all. Basically, it's a software as a service or mining as a service, right? So you pay for the miner, you pay for the install fee and your monthly um, uh, electricity usage, but they've got contracts with it's all renewables as well. So it's an interesting dynamic, and that's something I was just looking at prices. So for an S19, it's around $2,200, right?
Yeah, and also
S21, it's not like out of the realm of like, I mean, $2,200 isn't cheap, but you're getting KYC free sats.
And also, I do want to point that out. You don't have to mine at home. For anyone listening, you don't have to have 240-volt power and a black box or something. Like, there are hosting options out there. Several companies have started hosting, and also there are several marketplaces as well that you can find miners from other people selling them through verified services, not necessarily like eBay or something like that, but through Kaboom Racks. I'm not sure if SAS Mining offers anything like that. Compass Mining, I know, has a marketplace. I think that Luxor has started as well. But like, some of those get down to sub $1,000 sometimes, because it depends on who's selling them and why they're trying to sell it. Or are they trying to just get out because they don't want it? There's always psychopaths like me who's going to scoop them up. And you don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure at your house. You just pay your monthly hosting contract, and you still get that sweet KYC free sats.
Well, I somehow feel, and this is complete hopium, I smoked a lot of hopium to come up with this idea, that someone's going to invent something, and it'll be different than, don't they have mixers and stuff you can send your Bitcoin through, and
coin joins,
whatever that, I don't even know what that is, but whatever that is, they're going to come up with a much better and easier way to do it. And so in the future, I'll be able to, and many of us will be able to just do that easily. But again, that's hopium. Do you think something like that will ever exist?
Are you talking about like mixing or?
Well, yeah, but easier than that, because doesn't mixing take a lot of time, and it's not.
It does.
Really?
Well, with the fees.
Yeah, it really depends, especially with your UTXO set.
Yeah. PayJoin is another option, and I think a lot of wallets are starting to support that. And I was reading something, because the way it obfuscates the transaction, the UTXO set, you don't know who the recipient was and the receiver were, and what portion of the UTXO went where. Or like, it went to this address, but you don't know who's associated with it. It breaks that. And it looks like a standard transaction. And if a few percent, I think it was like less than 10% of transactions are starting to be conducted using PayJoin, that kind of breaks a lot of like coin analysis or chain analysis, like their heuristic. And that's all, it's heuristic BS, in my opinion, most of that. So there are other options too. I think it's just knowledge and implementation.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris, I was going to say, since you've got a Start 9, you should be able to run Whirlpool on there and do your own, or set up a CoinJoin mixer there. I agree, it's a little bit expensive. I've experimented with it in the past myself, just to understand the process so I can be knowledgeable on it. And so the price to do a CoinJoin is expensive, and it takes time while you're waiting in the queue for your next mix. I mean, typically when I tried it out, I was going at like 6 or 7 remixes before I would send it out to cold storage. And I agree. I think that there's probably a need for something like that, but there's also a danger associated with it as well. We've heard rumblings in the past. I haven't heard anything recently as far as, particular merchants not accepting UTXOs that have a CoinJoin history. So it's a balancing act, right? Do you want to compromise, your ability to spend it in the future while securing your privacy from the previous UTXO set? But it's one of those that I think, like we talked about before with Lightning, it's still at its infancy and it's still very, very early days. It's important for us as Bitcoiners to continue to learn. And then similar to what Nick was talking about, there's also a way to do like a Stonewall transaction. And that's where you combine two different UTXOs, then you have multiple outputs so that it hides the sender and the receiver a little bit by mixing it up with the change. So something else just worth considering forward-looking privacy on UTXOs.
And also, I'd recommend to everyone, if you do have a KYC stack, maybe you only have a KYC stack. There's a lot of, I would venture to say that most everyone does have a KYC stack. You can definitely buy non-KYC. Start a new wallet and call it your no KYC stack, and maybe you just use that for no KYC, and you continue to keep that a clean wallet for just no KYC or anything like that. But do peer to peer. Like I remember I've done both sides. At BitDevs I actually this was a New Orleans Bitcoin meetup. I was in a hard stacking phase. And I was like, look, I will cover y'all's tab if y'all send me Bitcoin for, maybe a couple bips percent premium or something like that. Or I called it like, I rounded up to the 1,000 per coin. And that's peer-to-peer. That's not no KYC right there. You can also use no KYC exchanges. Then also, you could be an idiot like me and go to Vegas with just a Bitcoin balance and not have any rules on gambling and be like, hey, I will sell someone some Bitcoin on the floor for some cash. Don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I want to foot stomp what Tatum said too, is as you're managing your UTXOs, absolutely, definitely have a label associated with every single one of them.
Sparrow Wallet. Sparrow Wallet's great for that.
Yeah, I've mentioned Sparrow Wallet at the meetup, but I think labels are absolutely important down to every single UTXO. You want to be able to know where it came from, or if you're sending out, where you're sending it out to. And really, if anybody listening is looking for some homework assignments, is look at UTXO management and coin control. That's going to lead you down the right path to be able to have good fidelity and confidence. Because if you think about it, 5 or 10 years from now, you're looking at a UTXO and you mixed KYC and non-KYC sats, you're not going to remember where that thing came from. So like Tatum said, multiple wallets, KYC, non-KYC, and label everything.
And I would recommend Wicked on Twitter for UTXO help. He I think it's W_S_Bitcoin. It's an apple with a mustache like mine. But he has some insane, he has great infographics about a lot of different stuff that he creates and a lot of UTXO management tools and resources. Sorry, there's a truck back there. And also I would recommend Sparrow Wallet as well. That's where I learned about UTXOs because they do a great job of visualizing UTXOs from a standstill. They do a great visualization of a transaction as far as inputs and outputs. You can also select which UTXOs you want to send out and stuff like that. Absolutely amazing resources. Sparrow Wallet and then Wicked the Apple on Twitter.
Sweet. Yeah, and to pile on one more thing, because I love Sparrow too. You can integrate Whirlpool directly within Sparrow. So if you want to try coin joins, it's built in. I mean, you almost can't lose with Sparrow.
Great tool.
I use Sparrow.
Yeah, I just used it too, I think, because I got a new Cold Card Mark IV recently. And I watched BTC Sessions video, and
his Lord of the Rings saga linked the Cold Card MK4 stuff. We were talking about that yesterday. He got his his Cold Card queue. He's like, I think I might split it up into different videos this time. And I was like, yeah, I really hope you do because it was really hard.
Well, I watched the one. I think he was with Natalie Brunell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She set up her Mark IV in real time. And
Yeah, that
they
was
just
his
went-
redemption after
Okay.
wasting a lot of people's time. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
BTC
really?
Sessions BTC Sessions is a great resource for education like that. And
Yeah.
also one more thing on Sparrow is they are very easily integrated with most every signing device that you can have. And it also teaches you how signing devices actually work, because your cold card, for anyone listening, sorry to shock you, there's no Bitcoin on that cold card. It is literally a car key to your car that only you know how to use. It's not, if I take your cold card, I'm not getting any Bitcoin. But
Right.
man, did I just give a free plug to Sparrow or what? Come on.
Sparrow. This show brought to you by. Okay. So we're getting down. We're pretty much out of time. But I want to know from each of you, what are you most psyched about in the Bitcoin space currently? Is it the price? Is it the tech? Is it the financial freedom aspect? Is it the political implications of just absolutely crushing fiat? What are you psyched about? Who wants to start?
I'll jump in first. The biggest thing. So I'll say it like this: I joined the Bitcoin community and became a Bitcoiner for number go up, and then I hit my first bear market, and it was brutal. Everybody who's been through a bear market understands that. What kept me in the game was the community and the people. I think it's awesome that we're all together right now, live streaming, having different stories, similar stories about a journey and a path down the rabbit hole. And so for me, what keeps me in the game probably the most is the community and the people in everywhere. I mean, I met a whole bunch of people at BitBlock Boom last year. I thought it was phenomenal. I was connected with Tatum through the alumni group. And then Nick, I randomly found on LinkedIn. And here we are all together right now. So I'm most psyched about the community, the communication, and everybody kind of rallying together for different causes.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'll jump in. On top of AC's point, my favorite saying is I came to get rich and I stayed to get even. Love that. But I mean, that's essentially, I was like, oh yeah, this number keeps going up, I'll get in. And now I'm like, I want to overthrow government. Not really. That was a joke for everyone. All right.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. No, I'm bullish on Africa for various reasons. One, the innovation coming out of Africa and also going into Africa to help African nations in, what is economic turmoil is insane. There are African Bitcoiners who are building for their communities. There are non-African Bitcoiners who are building for African nations to use, and also mining as well within Africa, because I recorded an episode of Between Two Nodes, which is the longer form, more serious version of my show with Adam O of Upstream Data, and we talked about this. But the reason that a lot of people people don't understand why African nations aren't very advanced, and that's because they have a lot of resources taken away from them because they cannot consume them. Because their power source usually diesel generators, which is the worst way and least efficient way to power things. And even if you were to rely on diesel generation, they do it in a way that they have to. Like every house has a diesel generator. Essentially, it's not like a mass. We get our power from this system, anything like that. The government also does not care to help or anything like that. What's happening with mining is that there are several resources in these African nations that are untapped because they can't consume it. So Bitcoin miners are going in and they're consuming the excess, and then boom, everyone has power. Then it sounds crazy. It's like, oh, I thought they took a lot of power. How are they delivering power? Well, the resources are now able to be allocated, and guess what? On top of that, they're getting exposure to Bitcoin as well, because look at African nations and their history of money specifically. You can look at the dollar and see how that fell from the gold standard, and then how we, you can look at the history of money for, developed nations with, just how things have progressed. If you look at the African, unfortunately, because of their governmental structure, they are stuck so far behind, even as far as currency. And Bitcoin is there. They just can't access it until now, and mining is literally bringing it to African nations. So I'm bullish on Africa all around.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I'm bullish on, well, as number goes up, freedom goes up too. I mean, and that's just kind of the reality of it. In a lot of ways, Bitcoin is FU money. Like, there's no centralized authority to dictate monetary policy over Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And so I think, yeah, that's what I'm most bullish on. And as I think, we're watching in a lot of ways the failure of fiat, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in the Western world. We're, I think, in a lot of ways in for a shitstorm here over the next few years. And that's where I think something like Bitcoin is really going to shine. Yeah. So
Sweet. Yeah, the one thing, well, one of the things I love about Bitcoin is that and I got this from the book, The Bitcoin Standard. He says when you have sound money, the society flourishes. Like it's a solid foundation you can build society on. And what we have right now are these absolutely demonic cartels that disguise themselves as governments, just stealing and raping everything we own and everything we're earning. And so I really look forward to a society that's built on a stable foundation and that'll be able to flourish. And it's going to also reward the people who have been paying attention and who see what's going on, and they're not so brainwashed, right? We're all brainwashed to some degree, but some people are just, NPCs, right? Just pure zombies. And okay, so they're not going to buy Bitcoin until 2037, and that's what they're going to deserve. But people who are paying attention and who want a better life and who are open to the signals from around them, we've all sort of said, yeah, there's something special about this Bitcoin thing. And so I'm looking forward to the flourishing, even on a personal level. Like one of my dreams in life was to have a big retreat center out in nature for meditation. Because my wife and I meditate, we love meditation, and I want to have like a lot of acreage. I don't want 10 acres. I want like 2,500 acres. And I want it to be a really good meditation center where people can come and take 2 weeks away from their life and just relax and meditate and all that. And who knows, maybe, and I never knew how that was going to come to fruition. Maybe Bitcoin will help me do that. So,
I mean, fix the money, fix the world I love the saying because as time goes on, you realize how much that actually is true.
Totally. So, yeah, number go up is good too. So, all right, let's you guys get your plugs in. What are you up to? Where can people find you? AC, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm on Noster and Twitter, but truth be told, I'm more of a lurker, not too active there. And then people can also find me on LinkedIn. Thanks.
Right, I'll have there'll be links below too. So, yeah. Nick, how about
you? I'm on Noster. I'm no longer on Twitter or X.
I applaud you.
So that's where you can find
There's
me.
a debate there, though. Maybe next week we'll talk about that, whether you should be on Twitter or not. I think the answer differs for different people, but anyway, Tatum.
Yeah.
Noster, Twitter, Tatum Turnup, and also YouTube, Tatum Turnup. I'm Tatum Turnup on literally everything. Subscribe, follow. I make funny content and also serious content, so.
Yeah. So great. This has been outstanding. Thank you all for coming and sharing so much wisdom. This is so much fun once we got through the technical stuff, and in the future we'll be able to show stuff on the screen. And oh my God, what a fun
hey, you made it work, and I appreciate you bringing us on. It's fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again, and we'll be back next week. Until then, any parting words?
Sacrifice
Stack
convenience. Until then, you're not free.
That's it. Let's
Stack
leave it there.
sats.
Stack sats. Stay humble.